guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I wanted to do a slightly different video. I have actually done a book video before, but I really wanted to do another one because I sort of made it one of my New Year's resolutions / didn't want to call it a resolution to read some more books. And I've actually, it's the end of April now and I've read 6 books, so I feel like that's averaging over one a month, so I'm very impressed with myself. I thought I would do a little bit of a this is the books that I've been reading, a little bit of a review about them. Some you may or may not have heard of, but I'm just going to basically give you a bit of a rundown on what I've read and what I thought about them. I think a little bit of background as well. I have always really read chick flicks and stuff like that. Occasionally read something a bit more challenging. What I'm trying to do is read some more books that aren't just chick flicks. So there's a bit of a mix in here from kind of chick flick holiday reads to books that make me think a little bit more, I guess. So the first book that I read this year was on my Kindle and it was called Just Haven't Met You Yet by Kate Woods. And I don't know where I saw this. It might have been through kind of like a recommended thing on Amazon, but I think it was probably about 99p, and I do tend to not spend more than 99p on Kindle books. Don't know, it's just sort of a little rule that I have. It's about a lady called Percy, and she has a boyfriend, she's got a good group of friends, and she gets contacted by a company called Eros Technologies, and they are an agency that basically supposedly have found your soulmate. So they contact her and tell her that they found her soulmate, would she like to meet her soulmate, etc. I did enjoy it. It had quite a few twists and turns, and there is kind of one big twist, and I think throughout it I was getting a little bit fed up with the character. She was just sort of a bit annoying, couldn't make a decision, but by the end I did enjoy it. I was happy with the outcome, and it was just one of those kind of easy to read books. It was a bit of a chick flick, probably quite a good one for a holiday. So that is the first one. That was just a really quick one. It's not one of my favourite books that I've read, and to be honest it's one of those ones that I will probably forget about. The next book I wanted to talk about is Jojo Moyes' Still Me, and this is the third book from her trilogy of Me Before You, and then it was After You or After Me, After You, and now it is Still Me. And if you watched my previous book video, I think I was talking about Me Before You, and it is one of my all-time favourite books. I really loved the story, and it was one of those books that really stuck with me, and I think that is always the type of book that I will always remember if it's got something in it that is just memorable to me. And yeah, I loved it. After You, not so much, just I felt like it was a bit unnecessary, to be honest, but I really wanted to obviously read about Louise and Sam and how that kind of kept going. And then Still Me came out. I was a bit surprised that, I think I knew there was going to be another one, but I just felt that potentially this was just a bit unnecessary again. Obviously I wanted to read it because I had read the other two and I love kind of the first one, and I wanted to know what happened. But basically it sees Louise move to New York for a new job. There's lots of obviously new characters in it, and most of them I don't particularly like. I felt like it was quite difficult to read. There were some quite sad bits, it was quite intense at times, and I just almost felt like I was just sort of pushing through it just to get it over with, which sounds really bad. But by the end I was glad that I'd read it, because obviously I wanted to know what the story was, and I think that this will be the end, or I don't know, do you know if it is the end? I hope it is, because I just think that sometimes it just is not necessary to keep going with book series. So yeah, I don't know if you disagree, you may do if you like the character and Jojo Moyes. Yeah, overall, obviously only read it if you've read the other two, but other than that, I don't know, I could have lived without it. I feel like I'm being very negative, but I will move on to one of my favourite books that I've read so far this year, which is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. I haven't got it with me because I've lent it to my friend because I loved it so much and I recommended it. Basically bought this because I saw lots of people talking about it online, on Instagram and YouTube and that kind of thing, and I thought it sounds a bit different to what I'm used to reading, hence why I'm trying to move away from the chick flicks. And it was quite different to what I had previously read. I just want to say that I absolutely loved it. So Eleanor is quite an unusual character and she's not fine. I actually watched a really good video of the author, and she kind of explained what kind of made her write it, a little bit more about Eleanor, and I'll leave that link in the box below. It's only 2 minutes, and if you're a bit of a nerd like me then you might enjoy it. And I really liked sort of her reasoning for kind of writing it. She read something about a woman in her 20s feeling quite lonely and felt that it wasn't really something that many people talked about. So Eleanor has had quite a tough life, you kind of find out about, and why she's this strange character. She has a very regimented life, she doesn't really let anybody in, until something happens when she kind of comes together with a guy called Raymond that she actually works with. And yeah, it's all about just how she opens up her heart, kind of opens up her life to other people, and it's just, you can really see her character change throughout the whole book, which is what I really loved. And I know some people have found it quite hard to kind of get into her character, but by the end I really loved it and liked her character. So it is quite hard to get into, I would say, but once you're kind of past the point, I think it's really, really great. I just thought it was really unusual. It wasn't your typical book, and it was really, really great to see her character kind of evolve. There was a bit of a weird twist in it. Obviously I won't spoil anything, which I'm not sure I was keen on, but yeah, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about if you've read it. But if you haven't read it, I would really highly recommend. And it is the author's first book, and it has been kind of up for some awards and stuff. So yeah, really worth a read if you haven't already. The next book I'm going to talk about is Hygge Holiday, The Hygge Holiday by Rosie Blake. And my friend is actually Danish, and she, I think, says Hygge. So something similar to that. So that's actually how you're meant to pronounce it. I actually bought this because I thought the cover was really, really pretty. I love the pink, I love the gold, and it got me from what it looks like, which is very bad. That's probably the main selling point of this book. I did enjoy it. It's kind of just your average book. Again, probably one of those ones that I will forget. Basically, it's about a girl called Clara, a woman called Clara. She is Danish, and she goes to this little village. It's a very sleepy village. All of the shops are shutting, all of like the restaurants and that kind of thing. Kind of your average story for a little village. She comes along and she sees that she could have do something with this shop. So it's all about her kind of being in this like new place and meeting new people in the village, kind of giving the village a bit of life. And I really liked the bits about Hygge in it. So it's all about her kind of making things cozy and kind of teaching people about Hygge. And then she kind of meets this guy, and he ends up kind of, yeah, making things more difficult for her. And it's just kind of your average chick flick story, to be quite honest, and probably a good one for a holiday again. And yeah, overall I did enjoy it, but it won't really set your world alight. But it's got a really pretty cover, so it'll look good in your bedroom or on your bookshelf. I'm going to talk about a thriller book now, which is most unlike me. My friend actually recommended this to me, and Kate Levy had also talked about this as well. So it is called The Girl Before, and again, I downloaded this on my Kindle. I think it was about 99p. It's by J.P. Delaney. I think it's like a bestseller. It's sort of set in the past and in the present, so it kind of flicks between the two lives of a lady called Emma and a lady called Jane. One is in the past, one is in the future. Not future, in the present. And yeah, it's all about, they basically, both of them in their times of their lives live in this house that they rent, and the house is a bit abnormal. I don't want to give too much away because it's kind of the whole point of the book. It's also to do with the architect and who created it, and it's a thriller, so some bits are quite tense and a bit scary. It's the type of book that I don't read when I go to bed. It's not that scary, but it's obviously about women on their own in a creepy house, basically, that I didn't really want to read when I was going to bed. I did enjoy it because it was just something a bit different for me, but I felt that it was a little bit 50 Shades in places, and it just almost was, I wasn't quite sure what it was trying to be, to be honest. It just kind of flitted between what the story was about, I would say. Again, it had quite a few twists and turns in it, so by the end I was probably quite unsure about how it was actually going to end. And by the end I didn't really like any of the characters, and I don't know if that was sort of the point of it. They're all a bit twisted. I would read it if you're into kind of thrillers, but be aware, again, I don't think it's kind of the best book out there, but worth a read, and it was kind of good to read something a bit more thrilling. So the final book I wanted to talk about was another one of my favourites from the past few months, and another book that I had seen a lot about online, hence kind of why I started to read it, and it is Call Me By Your Name, and it is by Andre Aciman. Luckily I found this again for like 99p on the Kindle store. I don't know if it's still that cheap. I had seen a lot of people raving about this, and oh yeah, I was pleased that it was quite cheap, and I wasn't sure what to expect. I don't think I actually really knew what the story was about at all before I started reading it. I just heard that it was a great book, and it had also already come out on the film. So I knew I wanted to read it before I watched the film. I was really struggling to read it. So it's in 3 parts versus like chapters. I quite like chapters because I quite like to know when to stop, when I can kind of have a break. But anyway, it was in 3 parts, and I felt that It was very weirdly written, not weirdly, but very differently written. So it's almost a bit like a stream of consciousness. So the main characters are Elio and Oliver, and it's about kind of the fact that they're kind of like lovers eventually. It's set in Italy, and it is from the perspective of Elio. So it's quite different to read. It's not kind of got quote marks when people are talking, so it's really hard to kind of tell if it's in his head, so in a dream, or if it's in real life. But I guess what I'm trying to say is at the time I struggled to read it, but by the end of it I absolutely loved it. And again, it's one of those books that will now stick with me because it was just all about kind of passion, love, forbidden love I guess, and the whole point of the way it's written is just to show you how kind of passionate kind of Elio is. And I ended up really enjoying it. The last third of the book is particularly good, and there's a really great monologue by his dad, and that is also really good in the film. So what I was going to say is that I've now watched the film and I like that as well, and I think I personally think it's one of those things that you should read the book and watch the film. I think together they're really good. I think the book is quite intense and the film kind of misses good bits out, but it also misses some of the more things that you feel like are a bit unnecessary. So to read one and watch one I think is really decent. All of the actors were really amazing and were also up for sort of awards, and yeah, really good to watch. It's one of those books that be wary of reading it on the train, if you know what I mean. There's a particular bit with a peach that if you've read it, you know what I mean. It was really good, well worth the read, and the film as well. The soundtrack is lovely, kind of the scenery is really nice, and it's not just about love, it's almost also about family as well. So he's got a lovely family and really close, and yeah, I really liked it, and I could probably talk about it, and I'd really recommend it if you haven't read it already. So there you go. I feel like I have rambled quite a lot, but I hope you enjoyed this. This was requested by quite a few people. I know these don't get loads and loads of views, but the people that do watch them hopefully enjoy it. And yeah, I really like kind of watching these and hearing what I should read next. So please let me know if you've read any of these, what you thought of them, and if you'd recommend any other books that I should read off the back of this video. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like it if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you soon. Bye.